everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to my channel, I'm Patty, and every Saturday at 11 o'clock we do budget-friendly DIYs. Today we are going to take some terracotta pots and turn them into some beautiful home decor. So if you want to know how to do it, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, Maxwell? Okay, for this first one, I'm using a flower pot that measures 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I'm using one that measures 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then one that measures 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. To attach these, I'm going to use some Loctite Power Grab, and I'm just using the white one on this because it does work really good. The clear seems to be a little bit dry when you buy it at the store, so I am using the white one. And just go all the way around your flower pot and then just kind of smooth it out. You just want enough for it to grab onto the larger flower pot that you're setting it on. And I am kind of putting a little bit more than you really need to. You don't really quite need this much on there. And then just put it on top of your other flower pot, and then take your level and make sure that you do have it level. You want to make sure it's level. And then you're going to add the third one on top of that exactly the same way with that same Power Grab. And I'm just going to put it right around the base and pull it down the edges just a little bit. This is the easiest way to do this. And then you want to make sure that this one's level as well once you get them all together. And if you have to do some adjustment while they're still drying, this is the time to do it. So I'm taking a cardboard egg carton and I'm just going to start dissecting this out. They have some areas on this that have like a texture on it. That's the part that you want to use. There's some smooth parts on there, but you want to make sure that you're using the textured part. And I'm just going to cut it into little pieces. And what I'm making some stones with these. So just kind of watch your shapes, kind of get them similar in size. And you can do them either smaller than that or even larger than that, but just kind of make sure that they are all about the same size, and you're going to need quite a few of them. Next, I'm going to use some tacky glue just to glue these to the flower pots. And I'm just going to start by spreading it onto the back of my cardboard and then putting them on. Now, you want to leave a space between them and just kind of turn them different ways. You want some different shapes, but you do want a little bit of a space between them because we are going to put like a grout line between them. So I'm going to go kind of fast on this so you can see what I'm doing, but you're going to go all the way around and you're going to go all the way to the very top of the flower pot with these pieces. And I didn't need more than the carton that I showed you here a minute ago. I used that and I still had a lot left over. So you only need just maybe even just a 12 egg carton to start with. But just do leave a space between them and then make sure that you are putting the textured side up. When you get to the second row, you are going to overlap the ledge of that a little bit. And so it's going to blend after we get all this done, but you do want to overlap that. You want to continue to go up. Otherwise, it's going to look like you just have it sectioned off. You want to make sure that you are overlapping it. And you are kind of spacing them out where they do kind of diagonal each other, not right facing, just right straight up and down with each other, and turn them different ways so you do have a little bit of different look to it. And this really doesn't take that long to do. You can do this pretty quickly. And then I figured out that it'd be easier just to squeeze some of the glue onto my countertop and just use it that way. That way I'm not sitting there just squeezing the bottle every time. This worked out really good, and you can just kind of get going on it and go all the way to the top, just making sure you are kind of keeping them spaced evenly. Okay, and then when you get to the very top, you may have to tear it into some smaller pieces to get that in there. And then once we get all the way up to the very top ledge, then we're going to take our scissors and we're just going to kind of trim them out. So you want to make sure that you do have a flat surface on top. Okay, and then that's how it looks once you get done. And we're going to paint this with a Waverly Mineral Chalk Paint. Started with a chip brush because I wanted to kind of get in between the grooves there and everything, but then I ended up switching over to a sponge brush because it works so much better. But you're going to cover the entire thing. Just really get it filled in, get all the sections between the pieces of cardboard completely covered. Next, I'm coming in with some Barcelona beige and a sponge, and I'm just going to start sponging it. Now, I did figure out that I was going to get it on my grout lines like this, so I did switch over to just a paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint lightly over these just to give them a little bit of texture. And you want to do every single one of them and just kind of lightly go over it. Don't do them solid, just give it a little bit of texture. The same paintbrush, I'm just going to add a little bit of brown that has a little bit of red to it just to give it a little bit of depth. And I'm not putting a lot of the brown with the red in it. I'm just putting a little bit in it. Then I'm coming in with a darker brown, and I'm just going to go around each one of the stones on that grout line just to give it a little bit more depth. It made those stones pop out a little bit more. Just kind of go around the edges of them. And don't do it too dark. Just kind of lightly go around it, and it will make those stones kind of pop out a little bit more. And I'm going around every single one of those. And this really didn't take that long to do. This was a pretty quick project. I know it looks like a lot of steps, but believe me, it's worth it. This turned out so pretty. And then for the base, I'm using a 6.5-inch saucer for the bottom and a 4.5-inch saucer for the top. And then I'm going to paint it with that same brown that I just did the grout lines with. And I'm going to paint both saucers exactly the same color. Next, I'm going to take 3 little wooden rings that measure 1 inch in diameter, and I'm going to put this together with some wood glue. And I'm not going to put a lot of wood glue on it, just enough for them to hold together. And this is how we're going to attach our light at the top. Just kind of make sure that you do get them lined up. And then the light that I'm using, I got it at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to attach these to this while they're still wet, just to make sure that I do get them even. And it's just going to go right onto the bottom. Just line them up and let them dry right there. Next, for both of my saucers, I'm just taking some French linen chalk paint and a chip brush, and I'm just going to distress these. So you're trying to get a lot of the paint off with the paper towel, and then just go around lightly. And I'm going to do both the bottom of this one, and then I'm going to do on the saucer one, I'm going to do the inside and the bottom of it. And you don't have to put a lot of this paint on, just kind of rough it up a little bit. I'm going to take some E6000 glue and then those little wooden rings, and I'm just going to put it right over the top and let that dry. And to assemble my lighthouse, I'm just going to use some E6000 glue right along the base of this. And then I'm just going to line it up over the bottom part of my saucer. Just make sure that you do get it even. And then we're just going to glue our saucer right on the top part of that. Just center it on top of that. And then you're going to want to let these dry really good before you touch them again. While those are drying, I'm just going to take some black paint and I'm going to paint my little rings on the bottom here. And it was a lot easier to paint them on here than try to hold them in your hand and paint them. After that dry, we're just going to put a little E6000 glue right around the bottom, and we're just going to line it up right into the center of our saucer. Next, I'm going to take a little basket from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut all the way around in a straight row to get just one little section off of this. Just kind of bend it back there, and then just take some pliers or some wire cutters and just start cutting it. Then I'm going to cut the ring in half, and I'm going to take the basket where it's overlapping in the back. I'm going to take that part off on both sides, and then I'm going to cut the ring off on the top, and I'm going to end up with just one strip of 2 rows of the little diamond shaped pieces like that. And then I'm going to kind of stretch it out a little bit, and then I'm going to wrap it around the top part, kind of like a fence for my observation deck. And then I'm going to find my center point into the back, and then I'm just going to hook it together with a zip tie. So you're just going to cut it off short, and then you're going to connect it with a zip tie. Before I attach it, I am going to paint it with some oil rub bronze paint. And then once I got that done, I'm going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to just put my black zip tie right in the center and just cut that off. And then I'm kind of centering it right in the center, and then I'm pushing my bottom tabs down towards the lighthouse, just kind of bending them under. And then I'm just going to use some E6000 glue, just attach it right here, just one spot. And then I came back in with a hot glue gun and then just spot glued it all the way around. Just a little bit of glue all the way around just to hold it in place. And I'm just going to take some black paint and kind of touch up my wire. This really was a pretty easy project. Next one, I'm using a flower pot that measures 3 inches by 3 inches. I'm going to use one that measures 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. and the one that measures almost 1 3/4 and then by 1 3/4 across. And then I'm going to glue these together with that same Loctite power grab in the white. Just put a little bit all the way around the inside. And then I'm just going to use a paint stir stick to kind of spread it out. I think this is the best glue for using with terracotta pots because it does stay together and it doesn't fall apart. I've done several projects with this and they still are together after years. And once you put that on there, you want to make sure that that flower pot is level. For the last flower pot, you're going to have to put something in it to grab onto the other flower pot. And I'm just using a regular cork here. I'm just going to cut it short to where it's flush with the top of the flower pot so it will grab onto the other flower pot. You could put a piece of wood in here if you wanted to. I cut it a little bit short right there, so I did have to come back in and put another little piece right inside. And just glue that in and then glue the edges around there and the center part together to get it glued together. You will have to put something in here because it doesn't really have enough room to grab completely onto that flower pot on the edges. Okay, then I'm going to put the power grab right around the edge, and then I am going to kind of smear it in with a little craft stick, and I am going to overhang it over the edge just a little bit. And then after you put your flower pot on there, you do want to make sure that it is level because you want your little observation deck for your lighthouse to be straight. Just make sure it is level, and I'll let all that dry. Next, I'm going to paint this with a chalk paint in the color Barcelona Beige. And I'm going to paint the entire thing this same color. So I got this bag of pea gravel at Michael's. It was $9.99. And I'm going to kind of sort my rocks out to the ones that have flat backs. They can be raised in the front, that's fine, but you want to try to find some that are relatively flat on the back. And you are going to use quite a few of these. I mean, not a whole bag of them, obviously, but you are going to use quite a few. So go ahead and take some time to do some sorting. Next, to attach the rocks, I'm going to use some Gorilla Glue. I'm just going to kind of smear it in here and then add a little bit of hot glue too. And I'm going to start adding my rocks. Now, you want to leave a little bit of space between them for a grout line, but just kind of put them in here and just kind of line them up and keep going till you get all the way to the top. And then I decided I would not use the Gorilla Glue anymore and instead use hot glue because I did change it up a little bit. And I'll show you here in a little bit what I did do where it is going to all stay together even with hot glue. But just kind of take some time to get your rocks kind of sorted out, leave space in between so that you do have a grout line between them. And I'm kind of going to go fast on this so you can see what I'm doing, but you're kind of like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. I mean, just put the pieces in there that kind of match where you do have a grout line between them. And you're going to keep going till you get all the way to the top. You get to the ledge, you're just going to put glue on top of that ledge, and then you're going to put your rocks on it like that. So they're kind of angled upward. But you do want to cover up that ledge as well. Just keep going till you go all the way around it, but definitely cover the ledge area. And this is where you can put little smaller rocks in here if you need smaller rocks for filler. And if you have done it all the way to the top and you have some spaces left over that you need to come back and do some rocks, just look for the smaller rocks to put in here. And this really didn't take that long to do. I probably spent maybe 20 minutes going all the way to the top with the rocks. And when you get to this point where you have your next ledge, you can turn your rocks sideways. So if they're skinnier, you can get them into that space. Just put them at a side angle and just push them on in there. Get to the rim, you do want to overhang it a little bit to the lower edge too. So it kind of meets with those rocks that are on the bottom of that ledge. And then just keep going all the way around exactly like you did on the bottom layer, all the way till you get to the very top. To the very top, you just want to make sure that you're not going over the top edge with those rocks because you still need to make sure that the bottom of that flower pot is still flat because we are going to put a saucer on there for an observation deck, and you don't want any raised rocks there. But right here, this is a really good way to use small rocks to kind of fill in. Just make sure that it is flat enough to where you don't have any overhang. Okay, next I'm just going to take my embossing gun and lightly run over it just to get any of the glue strings off of this, because you want to make sure that they are completely gone. And this will help melt them away. Next, I'm going to put on some gloves and use some Fast and Final spackle. I'm just going to stir it up real good because you want to make sure that it is pretty creamy. And sometimes it gets a little bit of liquid down at the bottom once you start getting to the bottom. And then I am just going to take my hand and I'm just going to spread it all over the rocks. I'm trying to get in between them. And then after I get it all in between them, then I'm just going to wipe it off the face of them. So just kind of take some time on this part, just kind of smearing it in with your hand. And then you can come back even with a rag and kind of wipe off the rocks. But you want to do the entire thing like this. This is an easy way to do the grout afterwards, and it goes on really quick. It totally changed the appearance of this. This would be a great technique to use even if you wanted to make like a Christmas cottage or something like that. You could do a lot of different crafts with this texture right here. Next, I'm just going to take a dry paintbrush, wipe it off, and then wipe it off onto a paper towel. This was the easy way to get this off here without making a big mess. Just going to finish it out with a paper towel just to get it completely cleaned up. Don't skip on this step because once this stuff dries, you aren't going to get this back off. So you want to make sure you do spend some time getting the grout off of the spackle off of the rock. That's dried. I'm just going to take a paintbrush and get any that's left over. There really wasn't much left over, just some little specks, but you want to go ahead and do this part too. Okay, next I'm taking some Barcelona beige chalk paint and I'm going to paint the bottom and the sides of this saucer. This is going to be for the base, and this one ended up being about a 4.5 inch saucer, and then the one on the top was about a 3-inch saucer, and we're going to paint that one to put on the top as the observation deck. So get them completely painted on all sides. Next, I'm going to paint a little wooden ring. This is about a 1-inch wooden ring, and I'm going to use this to attach my observation deck to the top part of my lighthouse. And the reason I'm using this is because my rocks did go up over the bottom part of it a little bit taller, and so this is going to help that base or that observation deck to clear the top. Just like the first lighthouse, I'm using one of the solar lights from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to attach 3 rings together that fit perfectly on the bottom of that. And then I'm going to paint those with that same French linen chalk paint. Next, to distress a little bit, I'm just going to take a sea sponge and some Barcelona beige chalk paint, and I'm just going to start dabbing it around it until I have it as much as I want. I did quite a bit on this, and I'm going to do the bottom base and the top observation deck as well, to kind of make them match. And just don't stay in one place. Kind of turn your wrist as you're doing this so it does give it a little bit different texture all the way around it. To attach it to the base, I'm just going to take some E6000 glue and I'm just going to run a bead of glue all the way around the bottom. And you have plenty of room to grab on with that because you do have all those rocks, so it did make it a little bit thicker. And then just kind of center it on your base, and your base is going to be upside down. And then for the top, we're going to attach our ring to the top, and we're going to attach our other saucer to the very top of that. And I'm only using E6000 glue on this. I'm not using hot glue either because I am just going to set it aside and let it dry completely. Just make sure you do get it centered. Got this little fence at Hobby Lobby, and that's in the little fairy garden section. And I'm just going to go all the way around, and then I'm just going to cut it so it just meets in the middle onto the back. Spray paint it with some Rust-Oleum flat burnished amber paint. To attach it, I'm just going to go like every other one of the little rungs on the fence with some E6000 glue. Then I'm going to come back and alternate on the opposite ones with some hot glue. That way your hot glue can dry fast, and then your E6000 glue can set up while you're waiting for that to dry. Just kind of really make sure that you do get it even around the side. You can put a little piece of painter's tape on the back just to hold it together till it does dry. Okay, then to attach my light, I'm just going to take some E6000 glue, put it around the base, add my 3 little rings, and then I'm just going to put some E6000 glue right around the bottom of those rings and then center that right in the center. And I'm using some hot glue with this as well. Just center it right on there. And then once that all dries, just remove your tape and you're pretty much done. This was pretty easy. Okay, for this next one, I'm using one of the safety cones from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to spray paint it with a white primer. Now, don't worry about the hole in the top of it. You don't want to do that. Before you paint that, you want to go ahead and cut the bottom part off. Cut about 1/4 of an inch from the edge all the way around so you have a nice round bottom on the bottom of your cone.
Okay, next I'm taking 3 wooden rings that measure 2 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to take one that measures 1 3/4 inch, and I'm just going to stack them together, gluing them together with some wood glue. And you just need a little bit of wood glue to hold these together. Just make sure that they are lined up once you get them put together. And then the 1 3/4 is going to go onto the top. And then I'm going to paint those with some folk art nautical chalk paint. And make sure you get all of it. You don't have to do the inside of it painted, but get all the outside, the bottom, and the top painted. Next, we're going to use that same Fast and Final spackling, and we're going to cover our cone completely. So I'm just using a popsicle stick to apply this. You just want a light coat all the way around it. Just get it completely covered. And I'm using some of the non-slip rug underlay. I got this at Dollar Tree, and I'm cutting it in about 4 inch by 4 inch squares. And you're going to cut several of these. Next, we're just going to attach it to the top part of the spackling, just kind of press it on there. And then we're going to continue to add till we have it completely covered. Now, you can do it at angles. You can do it however you want to. Just try not to overlap it. Just kind of get it on there real good and then push it down into the spackling. Then we're going to take the spackling and we're going to rub it over the top of it just to kind of seal it in. Just want to make sure it does get laid down there good and it doesn't lift. And you'll just have to cut different squares out or triangles out until you got it completely covered up. And then if you have some overlapping, that's okay. Just make sure you do get it flattened down. And then just spackle over the top of it so that it is smooth. And then set that aside to dry for about 24 hours. So I'm going to paint it in the color Mineral with some chalk paint. I started with a sponge brush but switched over to a chalk paint brush. Just make sure you get into every little nook and cranny. And I'm taking another one of those little 3.5 inch saucers and I'm going to paint it with that same Mineral chalk paint. Okay, next I'm taking a paper towel and I'm taking some of the truffle colored chalk paint and I'm just going over the mesh part. Just kind of giving it a little bit of highlight on it just to kind of make it look a little bit more distressed. Just kind of lightly go it. You're trying just to really get it onto the mesh part. Okay, next to assemble this, I'm just going to put some E6000 glue on the bottom little wooden ring. I'm just going to sit it right over the top part of my cone, push it on down there, and then we're going to attach our little saucer right onto the top part of that. Just kind of make sure that you are getting it pretty straight. And then just set that aside and let that dry. Next, I'm going to take 3 wooden rings that measure 1 inch, and I'm just going to glue those together with some wood glue. This is going to go onto our solar light just like we did on the last one. And then I'm going to paint these with that same nautical blue color. And to distress it, I'm going to use some of that same truffle color and a chip brush, and I'm just going to lightly go over this just to kind of give it a little bit of distress look. And I'm going to do the side and the bottom as well. And then to attach our little solar light, we're just going to take our little rings, attach them to the bottom part of our solar light, and then we're just going to glue it right to the top part of our lighthouse. And I'm going to use some E6000 glue and some hot glue on this part so it'll stay in place. Just kind of center it right into the center. To dress this up, I'm taking some old fishing net. I got this at Hobby Lobby years ago, and I'm just going to cut a piece off to go diagonal across the front. So just cut it off, and then we're just going to glue it right at the top part. And if you grab a popsicle stick, you can kind of hold it down there while it dries good. Just kind of lightly tape it down there. And then once that dries, we're going to go at a diagonal, and we're going to cut it off at the bottom. And we're going to glue that down also. Just kind of wad it up there together, cut a straight piece. And then we're just going to glue that just like we did the top part with the hot glue. And you're going to add quite a bit of glue to this. Just kind of try to get it pretty straight. To trim out the top, I'm going to start in the back. I'm going to put some jute and I'm going to wrap it around a couple of times. That way you can go right over the top of that net and cover up that rough edge. And you will want to kind of pull it as you're gluing it just to make sure it is pulled tight. And then just keep going till you have it wrapped around twice and then cut that off in the back and glue that down. And just really try to pull it tight. Dress up the front a little bit. I got this shell at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to put a little E6000 glue on it and hot glue on it, and I'm just going to attach it right to my net right in the very front. For my base, I got this little dog dish at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to hot glue and E6000 glue this right onto the center of it. This is just a little dog bowl in the little pet department. And then just really try to center it on there and just kind of put that aside and let that dry. After that dried, I'm taking some of that mineral paint and a chip brush, and I'm just going to go around this and distress the base. Okay, then to finish this off, I'm just going to go right around the edge here, and I'm going to wrap this around 4 times. That way it'll blend it all together, and you go all the way up to the top edge of the lighthouse so that it's all sealed in with the base.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to have some more crafting ideas, I'd love for you to stop by my other channel. I'll give you the link in the description below. I'd love to see you there.